Have you ever wondered how we know what's safe to eat versus what's not? The question seems simple, but that's only because of modern-day luxuries. For example, if I told you I was preparing a lovely green salad using poison ivy, that would give you pause. However, that wasn't always the case. Through the centuries, we've discovered quite a lot of things. Take the nightshade family, for example. Some members delightful, others not so much. But how did we come to learn the difference? Quite the story, really. It all began when Thomas Flint found himself in the right place just at the wrong time, which is a nice way of saying that he'd overslept. Thomas bolted out of his little cottage, cursing to himself. He couldn't afford to be late, not again anyway. His masters had been quite clear on that subject. No, if he wanted to finish his apprenticeship, he damn well better show up on time. Worse still, he couldn't come up with a good excuse to save his life. Being kicked by a horse seemed like a good reason to be late, but didn't seem very plausible without any sign to prove it. Then, an epiphany occurred. Maybe he could just sneak into class and nobody would notice. Much to his surprise, it worked. He'd settled into his desk when Master Tanning approached him. "Do you have any questions about today's assignment?" he asked. Thomas looked around nervously. Today's assignment?" he prompted. "Yes," Master Tanning said, "the one I was just discussing." "Oh, that one. No, of course not. I heard you loud and clear, sir." Master Tanning smiled. "Good. I suspect you'll have no trouble completing the task, then?" No, Thomas said. "Marvelous. Since everyone is clear on the details, I'll see you all tomorrow. Class dismissed." "Peter, come on. Please," Thomas begged. "Just tell me." Peter shook his head. "Maybe you should try being on time for once. The rest of us don't seem to have a problem with it. Besides, why should I help you?" "Because we're friends?" Thomas said. Peter laughed. "No, we're not." Because we could be friends?" Thomas offered. Peter crossed his arms. "Fine," Thomas breathed. "Here." He slid a coin across to Peter. Peter smiled. "Now that's more like it." Then proceeded to tell him the details of the assignment. The assignment had been simple enough. Find a particular species of nightshade, whatever that was, and bring it back the following day. However, Thomas didn't have the luxury of his other classmates. They'd all seen exactly what the plant looked like, whereas all Thomas had to go on was an extremely vague description from Peter. He sulked through the forest, hating himself. He was never going to find the plant. He was about to give up hope when he stumbled across a bush he'd never seen before. The plant was covered in tiny orange bulbs, smelled harsh, and his skin tingled upon inspecting it. "This is it," he said. "It has to be." The next day he noticed that his specimen didn't look precisely like the others, but plants have variability. He'd learned that much at least. All that was left was to turn it into a poultice. He was just finishing up when Master Tanning approached him, trailed by a brutish fellow Thomas hadn't met. "This is the young man I was telling you about." The man just stared, grunting in response. "I'm sure if anybody has done this correctly, it's our Thomas here." "Isn't that right?" Master Tanning asked, staring intently at Thomas. "Oh, yes, of course. I followed your instructions to the letter, sir." The brutish man swiped the poultice from Thomas, dropping a large bag of coins into Master Tanning's open palm. "Who was that?" Thomas asked as the man sauntered away. "Oh, him," Master Tanning grinned. "Just a prominent member of the Assassin's Guild." The following day, the man stormed into the classroom, demanding a private audience with Thomas. "What seems to be the problem, sir?" he'd said. The man only glared in return. "You," he snarled. Thomas said when the man suddenly grabbed him. Thomas screamed, then realized the man was just hugging him. The man laughed, patting him roughly on the back. "I paid for the man's death, but what you did? It was worse than death. He still believes that he's burning. Come work for us. Teach us how to rain fire upon our enemies." That day, Thomas learned two things. The first was that Master Tannin knew he'd been late and quite frankly didn't seem to care much for him. The second was that he clearly needed to brush up on the nightshade family. Any plant that could draw the attention of the Assassin's Guild wasn't one to trifle with. So yeah, that's how we learned that you can eat peppers and only think that you're going to die. Is that true? I don't know. Maybe. All I can say for certain is that this is a killer recipe. I mean, come on. Would I lie to you?